Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
First at 9 this Thursday, the 16th of January 2025. Record investment. President Anura Dissanayake-led delegation signs record $3.7 billion deal with China's Sinopec to build an oil refinery in Hambantota. A helping hand. India to provide grants totaling over 800 million rupees to Sri Lanka to establish smart classrooms and supply vehicles for police stations in the northern province. Tariff revision. Public Utilities Commission to issue its recommendations on electricity tariffs for the next 6 months tomorrow. Tourism development. Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority to streamline investment process for tourism, assures the chairman. Legal action against foreigners operating businesses on tourist visas.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කණ්ඩ පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe Vesat Mattuik Gedarat Disney.
This is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Ada Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest developments in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story tonight, Sri Lanka today secured the country's largest direct foreign investment to date with the signing of an agreement with China's Sinopec for the construction of an oil refinery in Hambantota. The investment is valued at $3.7 billion. The deal was signed following a meeting between China's state and private entities and President Anura Dissanayake, who is currently on a state visit there. Meanwhile, during other engagements with the Sri Lankan president today, China affirmed its commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's sovereignty and independence and has also pledged to support the government's manifesto. Today is the third day of President Anura Dissanayike's 4-day state visit to China, undertaken at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. This morning, the Sri Lankan president participated in an investment session jointly organized by China's public and private sector entities. During the meeting, President Dissanayake extended an invitation to Chinese investors to explore opportunities in Sri Lanka, assuring them of government's commitment to providing the necessary facilities. Prominent Chinese corporations including China Communications Construction Company Limited, China Petrochemical Corporation, also known as the Sinopec Group, and BYD Auto participated in the event. A significant milestone was achieved when Sri Lanka secured its largest foreign direct investment to date with the signing of an agreement between Sri Lanka's Ministry of Energy and the Sinopec Group. Under this $3.7 billion investment, an oil refinery with a capacity of 200,000 barrels per day is to be constructed in Hambantota.
We have signed an agreement for a direct investment of approximately $3.7 billion. This investment will facilitate the construction of an oil refinery in Hambantota with a capacity of 200,000 barrels a day. A significant portion of the refinery's output is earmarked for export. With these investments, we aim to drive economic development, ensuring maximum benefit for the people of Hambantota. Furthermore, we are committed to delivering the benefits of these projects to the citizens of our country as quickly as possible.
Following the investment session, President Dissanayake paid tribute to the monument to the people's heroes in the southern part of Tiananmen Square in Beijing, a national symbol of China dedicated to the martyrs of the revolutionary struggle during the 19th and 20th centuries. President Dissanayake also met with Zhao Leiji, chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress of China. During the meeting, Chairman Zhao reaffirmed China's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's sovereignty, territorial integrity and independence. He further emphasized that continuous and cooperative engagement with Sri Lanka remains a key priority for the Chinese National People's Congress. The Sri Lankan president also met Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang today. During the meeting, the Chinese premier expressed China's fullest support for the efforts of the Sri Lankan government's manifesto, A Thriving Nation, A Beautiful Life. He also reiterated China's commitment to providing extensive support for Sri Lanka's economic development and affirmed China's backing for government's ongoing efforts to build a nation free of corruption. President Dissanayake in his remarks sought Premier Lee's support for Sri Lanka's initiatives to eradicate poverty and promote digitalization across the country. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka and China issued a joint statement today regarding the development of President Disanayake's visit to China, stating that during the tour, China reaffirmed its independent foreign policy of peace, while Sri Lanka reaffirmed its non-aligned stance. Both nations have agreed to advance key projects such as the Colombo Port City and the Hambantota Port, utilize platforms such as the Silk Road Workshop, and implement more livelihood programs in Sri Lanka. The two nations have signed a Belt and Road Cooperation Plan to enhance collaboration and explore new opportunities for growth and expressed commitment to concluding a comprehensive free trade agreement and expanding cooperation in logistics, green development and the digital economy. The two nations signed cooperation agreements in agriculture, tourism, media and livelihood assistance and also agreed to sign a Memorandum of Understanding for Ocean Cooperation. China expressed readiness to provide training and demonstrations in the agricultural sector and support expanding Sri Lanka's exports to China. It also agreed to support Sri Lanka in vocational training and in building capacity in law enforcement, the judiciary and security and provide police supplies. President Anura Dissanayake in turn thanked China for its hospitality and invited Chinese leaders to visit Sri Lanka. A high-level delegation from the U.S. Institute for Security Governance met with Acting Minister of Defense, retired Major General Aruna Jayasekara, and Defense Secretary, retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakonta. The ISG is an entity within the U.S. Department of Defense that evaluates, reviews and develops ongoing institutional capacity-building projects with personnel from the Sri Lankan security forces. The delegation was led by Michelle Rembold, ISG Regional Program Leader for the Indo-Pacific region. The discussions emphasized the collaborative efforts between the ISG and Sri Lankan counterparts. A statement issued by the Ministry of Defence noted that the discussions provided valuable insights into Sri Lanka's defence priorities and decision-making processes, thereby laying a strong foundation for the development of more substantial partnerships in the future.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
India, meanwhile, has agreed to provide 2 grants to Sri Lanka totaling over 800 million rupees to establish smart classrooms in plantation schools and supply vehicles for police stations in the northern province. Meanwhile, High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, met with national organizer and parliamentarian of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Namal Rajapaksa, and held discussions on ongoing development projects, investments and the economic revival of Sri Lanka. India will provide a 508 million rupee grant to Sri Lanka to establish smart classrooms in 60 plantation schools. The project envisages the establishment of smart classrooms in 48 schools in Nuwara and 6 schools each in Kandy and Badulla, identified by the Sri Lankan government. The relevant Memorandum of Understanding was signed today by High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, and Secretary to the Ministry of Plantation and Community Infrastructure, B.K. Prabhat Chandrakirti. Meanwhile, India has also pledged to provide a 300 million rupee grant to supply single cabs for Sri Lanka police. The project entails the supply of at least 80 single cabs, spare parts and accessories to the police stations in the northern province. The relevant memorandum of understanding was signed by the Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha and Secretary to the Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs DWRB Senaviratna yesterday, with Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya also in attendance. In the meantime, Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha met with National Organiser and Parliamentarian of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Namal Rajapaksa yesterday. The Indian High Commission said they exchanged views on multifaceted issues ranging from ongoing development projects, investments, the economic revival of Sri Lanka and other areas of mutual interest. Namal Rajapaksa meanwhile said he outlined SLPP's commitment to maintaining the neighbourhood first policy. The Court of Appeal has postponed the hearing of the fundamental rights petition challenging the agreement between the Government of Sri Lanka and India's Adani Green Energy for a wind power project in Mannar until the 23rd of May. The petition filed by Chairman of the Green Movement of Sri Lanka, Chandima Abesiriwardana, was taken up before the Appeals Court today. During the proceedings, the State Council informed the court that several key cases related to the project are set for review by the Supreme Court in March, with no final decision reached as of yet. As a result, the Appeals Court scheduled the hearing of the petition for the 23rd of May 2025. The report of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka on the proposed electricity tariff is scheduled to be issued tomorrow. The PUCSL called for public opinions on the matter from the 17th of December last year, while oral sessions were held from the 27th of December to the 10th of January across all 9 provinces. Around 400 individuals have submitted proposals during these sessions, and it was proposed that the electricity tariff must be reduced between 20 to 30%. Following the proposals, the Public Utilities Commission stated that a report containing recommendations on electricity tariff revisions and the percentage of the revision will be released tomorrow. The Ceylon Electricity Board is obliged to adhere to PUCSL's recommendations regarding the tariffs as per the Public Utilities Commission Act.
Fast track your career from O-levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Prime Group ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන land leasing ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
This season, get up to 25% discount on Arpico Foam and Spring mattresses. Available at Arpico Supercenters.
Long queues of container transports remained in front of the customs terminal in Orugodavatta last night. However, Sri Lanka Customs announced that 1,615 containers have been released through the main terminals, of which 1,337 were cleared and released through the port gates as at 6:30 a.m. this morning. Additional Director General and media spokesperson of Sri Lanka Customs, Sivali Arugoda, stated that the issue regarding container clearance will be resolved by this weekend as Sri Lanka Customs moves towards a permanent solution by amending the container clearance process and increasing facilities for checks. Several provinces of Sri Lanka are experiencing rainfall due to the northeastern monsoon, and reservoirs have begun to overflow, inundating roads and farmland. The Department of Meteorology forecasts that rainfall will increase in the coming days. Eastern monsoon being active over Sri Lanka, the northern, north central and eastern provinces are experiencing continuous rainfall. Accordingly, the highest rainfall of the last 24 hours of 188.6 millimeters was reported from the Oddu Sudan area in the Mullaitivu district. Heavy rainfall has led to the destruction of over 6,000 acres of paddy fields in the Vella Valley Divisional Secretariat of the Batticaloa district. Additionally, paddy fields in Uhana Ampara were damaged due to the overflowing of the Dambe Ala. 4 sluice gates of the Kaudulla Reservoir in Madaragiri were opened, causing the overflow of Kirimatioya, which resulted in the surrounding lowlands being inundated. Over 3,000 acres of paddy fields in areas such as Kirimatiya, Gallamuna, Sungavila and Migaswawa remain inundated. Due to the rainfall, around 50 acres of paddy fields in the Walasmol area of Hambantota were destroyed. Meanwhile, the lowlands on either side of Malwatu Oya in Anuradhapura were also inundated, and irrigation officials advised the residents to remain alert. Amid the rainfall, the sluice gates of several reservoirs have been opened, including 45 of the 73 main reservoirs under the management of the Irrigation Department.
අනිත් දිනේ සිට දිවයින පුරාම වාගේ වැසි තත්ත්වයේ වර්ධනයක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
වාරිමාර්ග දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ වැව් 90%කට වඩා වැඩි ධාරිතාවයන් පිරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා ඉදිරියේදී ඇතිවෙන හැම වර්ෂාපතනයකදීම වැව් වාහන දැමීමේ සිදුවීමට ඉඩකඩ තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා සියලුම දෙනා වර්ෂාපතනයත් සමග ඇතිවිය හැකි අවදානම පිළිබඳ අවධානයෙන් ඉන්න කියන ඉල්ලීමත් කරනවා.
And now let's take a look at the latest opinions expressed in the political arena. The government is failing to fulfill the promises made during the election campaign. The government, who vowed to strengthen the state sector, has now said that it will lay off 750,000 government employees. However, the government has no clear plan or knowledge of how this will happen.
Each season, rice mill owners obtain large loans, mainly from state banks with approval from the central bank. They receive these loans at interest rates ranging from 4% to 7%. However, there is no system in place to monitor whether the money is being used solely for purchasing paddy. Instead, these mill owners often invest the funds in other businesses.
Our government's transition period is nearing its end. Through the ministry, we will soon begin working with rural communities. The public will soon see whether the government is making progress with the agriculture ministry.
There's a significant opinion in society that factions of the UNP, such as the SJB, should reunite. Discussions about that have already begun, and this message is spreading across the country. People are now focused on defeating the NPP, which is evident in the results of the cooperative elections. If we approach this strategically, we have the potential to defeat the NPP in the upcoming local government elections.
In other local news, Sri Lankan underworld figure and drug kingpin Janit Madhushankar, also known as Podi Lassi, who fled the country after being granted bail, has been arrested in Mumbai, India. Police sources confirmed that Interpol has officially notified Sri Lankan authorities about the arrest. Sri Lankan police had discovered that Podi Lassi fled the country in violation of the bail conditions imposed on him and was hiding in India. Police media spokesman SSP Buddhika Manatunga stated that in response, Sri Lanka shared relevant information with Indian authorities, which led to the arrest of the notorious underworld figure. Manatunga further confirmed that measures are underway to expedite the suspect's extradition and to proceed with legal action for the violation of his bail conditions. On the 9th of December 2024, Podi Lassi was released on bail by the Balapeti Magistrates Court under strict conditions. He had been named as the second suspect in a case related to alleged death threats made publicly at the Busa prison against former President Maithripala Sirisena, the then Defence Secretary, and certain high-ranking officers of the prison's department. Welcome back. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, Buddhika Hewawasam, assures that Sri Lanka possesses the necessary infrastructure to achieve the government's target of attracting 3 million tourists to the island this year. Speaking to media, Hewawasam went on to say that the SLTDA will take action to streamline the process of investing in the tourism industry and stated that action is being taken against foreigners operating businesses in Sri Lanka on tourist visas.
ලක්ෂදීප සංචාරක පිරිසක් ගෙනියන රජයේ බලාපොරොත්තු ඉටු කරා. පොඩි කරන හෝටල් ආරම්භක සංඛ්‍යා. සංචාරක මඟ පෙන්නතුමා නීතිවත්.
ලංකාවේ දැනට තියෙන සංචාරක හෝටල් කාමර ප්‍රමාණය යම් ප්‍රමාණයක් පමණයි.
Among all the rooms in Sri Lankan tourist hotels, only a few have been documented in government censuses. There is a significant number of rooms that are not under government regulation but are catering to tourists. If we consider both of these categories together, there are sufficient rooms. We do not want to destroy such illegal operations, but we do want them to be regulated. By obtaining legal status, these businesses can be eligible to receive certain government services. If there are businesses that refuse to obtain legal status, even with that being the case, we will not hesitate to initiate legal action against those. Moreover, there is a trend of accommodation being constructed at locations that are already tourist hotspots, but not at locations that have the potential to become tourist destinations. In order to mitigate this situation, we need to attract more investors. To that end, we are currently putting government-owned lands that have been earmarked for tourism into the care of a land bank. This land bank will streamline the process of investing in tourism, and the Tourism Development Authority is facilitating the issuance of relevant licenses and permits to such investors. We already have an investment relations unit and we are in the process of digitizing it.
අපිට තියෙනවා දැනටත් ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් රිලේෂන් යුනිට් එකක්. මෙය ඩිජිටල් කරණය කිරීම කරනවා.
චෝදනාවක් සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරයේ යෙදෙන පිරිස අතර විවිධ රටවල් වල පිරිස් සංචාරක වීසා වලින් ඇවිල්ලා අවුරුදු ගණන් රැඳී සිටීමෙන් සංචාර ව්‍යාපාර කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒක මොකක්ද?
දැනට අපි දකුණු මුහුදුබඩ ප්‍රදේශයේ මේ විදිහට කටයුතු කරන විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක්.
We have already arrested several such individuals on the southern coast and some of them have already been deported. If a person who arrives on a tourist visa takes up an occupation, they are no longer a tourist. Their country of origin is irrelevant. Tourism professionals and locals have been informing us of such individuals and we request that they continue to do so. If the information is accurate, we can take immediate legal action. We are already conducting such operations in Unawatuna, Bentota and Mirissa and we hope to expand them to the rest of Sri Lanka. We have reached an agreement with the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Tourist Police to attach 2 officers who specialize in tourist policing to all police stations in tourist zones. A centralized unit for this purpose will also be established. We have also sought advice from the Attorney General regarding the establishment of a unit within the Tourism Development Authority to initiate legal action against these individuals.
සංචාරක සංවර්ධන අධිකාරිය ස්ථාපිත කිරීම සඳහා නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ උපදෙස් ලබාගෙන තියෙනවා.
Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka, Khalid Nazar Al Ameri, recently met with Sri Lanka's Secretary to the President to discuss enhancing economic ties. In a separate development, Sri Lanka signed an agreement for the 2025 Hajj pilgrimage, reinforcing bilateral relations with Saudi Arabia. Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka, Khalid Nazar Al Ameri, met with the Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanatkumar Nayaka today. During the discussions, Ambassador Al Ameri reaffirmed the UAE's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's economic development. According to the President's media division, Ambassador Khalid Nazar Al Ameri highlighted that under the new political framework, there are now enhanced investment opportunities for UAE investors in Sri Lanka. He also expressed hope of further expanding job opportunities for Sri Lankans in the UAE. The ambassador emphasized that the UAE is eager to expand its trade relations with Sri Lanka and looks forward to entering into new agreements in this regard. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka recently signed the agreement for the 2025 Hajj pilgrimage in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The agreement was signed by the Sri Lankan delegation led by the Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs Dr. Sunil Senavi and the Deputy Minister of Hajj and Umrah of Saudi Arabia Dr. Abdul Fattah bin Sulaiman Mashat. The agreement underscores the commitment of both governments to enhancing the pilgrimage experience for Sri Lankan Muslims. A suspected train tickets racket on the popular train journey Alla Odyssey has been discovered, with some 300 or more tickets being sold within just 42 seconds of opening online sales counters. Deputy Minister of Transport Prasanna Gunasena revealed that the racketeers purchased tickets originally priced at 2,000 rupees to resell them to foreign travellers for as much as 16,000 rupees a ticket. The primary focus is on the Colombo Fort, Kandy and Alla railway stations. As a result, the Department of Railways is taking immediate action in collaboration with the police, and a complaint has been filed with the Criminal Investigation Department. The Sri Lanka Railways Department has meanwhile decided to strictly implement a ticket verification process for pre-booked seats. The Colombo bourse continued to remain in positive territory as a result of price gains in counters such as Commercial Bank, Tokyo Cement Company and Lanka IOC. The all-share price index climbed 0.39%, settling at 16,215.93 points. Meanwhile, the S&P Sri Lanka 20 climbed 0.26%, ending at 4,918.04 points. Market turnover stood at 5 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 308 million rupees. And with that, here's a look at the rupee exchange rates for the day. And that's all the news for tonight. Thank you for joining and have a good night.